Holly may have continued his winning ways, but Hartman has proven to be a worthy challenger to the title. Still, a first round is a little to go on, as the path of our story could drastically change many times before we reach the end. Hopping over to familiar territory may clear the picture up and give a better indication as to how things might go. Charlotte Motor Speedway is known inside and out by nearly all the drivers, and we'll see who is brought to the fore as we get ready to watch the race for the Roberts 205K, round 2 of the PRL NASCAR Truck Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Adam, while the Cup cars are preparing for the Roval, the trucks will tackle the old faithful of the circle track world, Charlotte's Quad Oval.
Yes, Joe, known as the backbone of NASCAR, Charlotte Motor Speedway is a 1.5 mile or 2.4 kilometer quad oval with 24 degrees of banking in the turns, but only 5 degrees in the straights. This track is fast and terrifying. Hosting many long-form events that test drivers' endurance, tonight's 85-lap race in the trucks, though much shorter, will be no different. The truckers tonight will be hard-pressed to keep their right front underneath them as they lay hard on it through the steep corners. Expect restarts to be hectic, but then for the trucks to spread out as the run goes on, as the aero wash pushes them up the banking in the turns. Later in the run, the truck will switch from tight in the center to snap loose as the rear tires wear under the constant throttle and high cambers around Charlotte. Passing here is difficult to set up, but if you're within a few tenths heading onto the back straight, you could dive it into turn 3 with confidence and take away their line exiting on the front straight. Though trucks may look more spread out tonight, any mistake will result in a loss of momentum and most likely more than one position. This legendary track requires the utmost of its drivers, so let's see what it takes to wheel a NASCAR Ganders Outdoor Series truck around Charlotte Motor Speedway in tonight's GSRC lap guide.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Global SimRacing Channel. I'm Brian Yazik, taking you for a spin around the Charlotte Motor Speedway in the GSRC Chevrolet Silverado pickup truck. Without further ado, here we go. Coming down the start-finish straight here on the other side of the dog leg, you're really going to be trying to set this up because the trucks have a little lower horsepower, so momentum is big. So you really want to drive it in there and try to carry the momentum through the middle of the corner to exit. It's kind of like road racing in a sense, where you might give up the entry to get the exit right. Down the back stretch, down here into turn 3, minding the bumps that are going to be down here waiting for you at the bottom here. You see the truck gets over there, just gets a little, you feel it in the steering wheel, you feel it in the car. Off of the turns, you're going to want to keep it straight down low here for your qualifying run. Now, as the run moves on and you want to really try to build up some steam with this motor, you're going to be coming up here to the top, letting it get in there, get real close to the fence, driving it straight down, and that's really going to keep the momentum up in the vehicle as long as it revs and keeps that head of momentum that you've got going. Down here to turn 3, same scenario, up by the fence, letting it rotate around, careful not to hit the fence up there, that'll really slow you down. Off of turn 4, bringing it back down here towards the grass, across the line, and that is going to complete our guide here around the Charlotte Motor Speedway. I'm Brian Yazik. Enjoy the show.
You see a couple laps around Charlotte, but before we get to the action out on track, let's talk about the sponsor for this race itself. We have Adam Young with us in the booth. Adam, this sounds like a very important cause that we have for us today that this race is involved with. Could you explain a little bit more about what this is about?
Yeah, and of course, thanks for having me here. And, a couple weeks ago, we had our extended teammate. If you watch Major's broadcast, you probably have seen him a few times. He hasn't been around the last, 2-3 months because of some ISP issues at his new house. But Bryce Roberts' wife was involved in a very serious accident. And in the process of that accident, she had numerous injuries that required a lengthy hospital stay, which include broken pelvis, broken ribs, just to kind of list a few of them. And most tragically, they're living what, in my opinion, is my world's worst fear in the fact that they also she was pregnant, and they ended up losing their what was going to be their firstborn child. And so it's something that hits near and dear. In addition to being my teammate, extended teammate, not necessarily in the PRL, but in overall, we wanted to do something for them. And we've been trying to drive it home as far as the GoFundMe, which you can find in the video description. So far, through our efforts, through his employer's efforts, through their friends' efforts, they've raised over $10,000. And I want to thank our Majors family, our Lionheart family. A few of those guys have donated. Also want to thank the PRL family, our new family, who we've moved over in this series this season, who they've basically, I saw it earlier today, they've refunded our sponsorship money in a way that they put that money back into the GoFundMe account. So I want to thank those guys for that. That was really nice of them. But that's what we're racing for here tonight, and happy to have PRL and GSRC on board for it.
Well, that is such a fantastic effort that you guys have put together for your teammates, and really a testament to how this community is just a family, even though we're all competing out on the track. Thanks for coming and talking to us about that, Adam. Best of luck. And again, we'll try and help plug and make sure that everybody checks out the link down in the description and contribute what they can. Best of luck today out on track.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Joe. It's going to be a tight setup, so get ready for a show.
Right. We'll watch out for it. Let's take a look at the pre-race show, though, starting with our championship points. Going to the driver's standings first. Bradley Hawley is tied with Hartman after round one because of the bonus points that they can accrue. Now, Rob Haynes is back there very close to so is Sink and Chatley. They've been some of the major players in seasons past. They've been very fast out in the truck, so we expect that to continue. But what about the team standings? That's a completely separate thing that we have here, Adam. So how's that looking?
Yeah, this is where things get interesting. A change from last year's season is that they're allowed to have 3 drivers per team, and that's actually made some things very interesting. Whataback, the other guys, is in the lead. That is William Hartman, Rob Haynes, and Brandon Walter. And then we have Whataback Back Row Racing with Bradley Hawley, Colton Lane, and Thomas Sink. Now, as you remember, Colton Lane bred out a caution in last week's race, so that is what has set Whataback Back Row Racing back those 2 points. Coming in third right now is Hard Knocks Sim Sports 1, and then we have Left Turn Motorsports and Whataback Ramrod rounding out those top 5 team standings.
Also, we have some race details for you, just in case you've never tuned into the PRL NASCAR Truck Series before. As we mentioned, we are in round 2, and they're racing, of course, the Silverado and Tundra, just like the Gander Outdoor Series does. They have a fixed setup, but they have 100% fuel in this series. We do expect pit stops at the least. And they have a race length of 85 laps. It is also limited to 1 hour. So they can run into a time limit, and that can be affected by the cautions that we expect at least 1 or 2 will happen today. An incident cap of 13 could also take people out of the race today. So you won't want to be DQ'd. You got to keep it clean, even though we've got NASCAR trucks out there and you can bump and bang a little bit. So as they continue on their way around here in warm-up, we haven't hit qualifying yet, Adam, but we're watching them kind of do a little bit of a practice run in a group, and it doesn't look like it's been totally clean.
No, as Adam Young said, we have a tight setup tonight, which means that pit stops at regular intervals is going to be very necessary, especially if we get a lot of cautions. So you're going to see these guys wanting to pit for tires after like about 5 laps or so, if they get a yellow. Now under green, they're going to run as long as they possibly can until they start to lose too much time. But if we see early yellows, we're going to see quite a few people come into the pits for sure.
And as the warm-up ends, qualifying will start now. They each get 2 laps to try to set their fastest time and determine the grid. Not all the drivers set one last time. Some intentionally, some not so intentionally. We'll see if anybody employs the same strategy here today. As we watch a few of them now head out on track. I can see LaBaff out there early, Duchesne as well. The weather currently at about 95 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. Could go either way, could cool, could heat up. As we are towards the latter part of the day, we expect it might cool down. But we've seen this before, Adam, where some drivers maybe try to wait for a little bit of a cloud towards the end of the qualifying just to try their luck.
Yeah, cloud's a good idea. It's also, as you said, it's late in the day. It's 6:20 virtual standard time, so the likelihood is that this track will cool down a little bit before the end of this session, especially with iRacing's new adjustments to how the track surface responds to the weather. And so it's probably a good idea to wait for that lap to go on. But as we saw in practice, these guys are going to be really tight. We had 34 trucks underneath 1 second in practice, so expect these qualifying times to be down to the 100th or even 1,000th of a second.
Sure did look close during that warm-up, and as the times come up on the board, LaBaff with a 31-aught is quickly overtaken by Duchesne. Colton Lane looking good here on the first lap. Is this a second lap track, or is the first lap your ringer?
First lap's your ringer, especially with this tight setup. You're only going to get worse after that, so you want to try and make sure you make that first lap your best one.
See Daniel Knight yet to set his first time. Zemke now up on the provisional pole ahead of Nick Ketchum. They continue to trickle in this 5-minute qualifying. Checking to see if any of our big drivers are still waiting to set a lap. I see Robert Besaw just now coming out. Bradley Hawley has also not exited the pit lane to start his first timed lap.
William Hartman just starting to go on to his first time lap. Let's see what kind of time he puts in.
As that was happening, Todd Smith manages to get himself on the front row. We ride on board with Hartman, the Michigan driver, down the back stretch. This is the latest scan that we've got of Charlotte. For many years, we had the original back from, what was it, about 06 or 07, I believe. It has since been updated. And as Hartman comes across the line, what's his first time going to be? Ooh, good enough for pole. And that would be the second pole in a row if he can retain that.
Pole by 300ths around here. That's quite quick, Joe.
And Hawley's getting ready to respond. The 184 now exits onto the track from the pit lane, getting ready to start that warm-up lap. Let's see if the Texas driver can respond. Jalen Battle looking to have a little bit of a better race, at least early on. The number 28 had to climb through the field at Michigan, and right now is sitting in 7th. He just got bumped down from 6th as Robert Besaw Jr. finally sets a time.
Jalen Battle's second lap is going to be slower by just under a 10th, but Bradley Hawley just starting his first flying lap. Let's see what he can put in. He's a little bit tight coming off a 2.
Hawley currently look to repeat not just a win this week, but a championship this season. He was dominant last time, if you weren't watching, with 7 wins out of 10 rounds. Let's see what the 184 has on the banker lap. Up and to the line.
Oof.
And it looks like that's only good enough for 9th position. A shocker from the 184.
Another shocker is who we saw while Bradley was taking that first lap. Dominic Bajin flashed up on our screen with the purple lap, so he's got pole right now.
Interesting stuff. So that'll bump Rob Haynes onto the second row and Warren onto the outside of that row. We still have about half a dozen drivers who have yet to take a time. Sink looks like he's just coming out. I believe Jared Young is either starting a lap or finishing his first timed one.
And Hawley did not improve on his second lap as we predicted, so he's going to start back there in the midfield.
Paul Williams also out there. First time on the board is good enough for 24th for the number 7 truck. So at this point, I think the only one that we can get a time in is Sink. Nope, it looks like that time is out, actually. Clock is over. Checkered flag flies for the qualifying. Let's go through your starting order for round 2 here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Dominic Bajin on the pole gets that bonus point, and William Hartman will be next to him, just ousted very close by about 1/100th at the line. Rob Haynes will be starting in 3rd with Jonathan Warren in 4th. Then it's Adam Zemke starting P5. Todd Smith will round out the 3rd row. Robert Besaw Jr. will be P7. Danny Knight, starts in 8th. Bradley Hawley managed to qualify 4th in the first round, but is going on a downward trend. Only 9th for the current champion. Nick Ketchum rounds out the top 10.
Brendan Chatley's going to start in the 11th position alongside Jalen Battle in 12th. Danny Duchesne takes the Baker's Dozen position on row 7 alongside Charles Sumner. Austin Hunter starting in 15th alongside Colton Lane in 16th. Doyle Lawrence in 17th alongside Nicholas Schmeg in 18th. John LaBaff 19th on row 10 next to Frank Peacock in 20th.
After the pace I was seeing from John Ambrose in the warm-up, I'm surprised to see him only snag 21st. Mitchell Clark will be next to him in 22nd. Then it's Brett Adams starting P23. We watched Paul Williams. He didn't improve on the second lap. 24th was all he had. Rachel Hunt will be behind them starting 25th. Then it is Michael Franklin starting in 26th. Brandon Walter starts P27. 28th goes to Adam Shane. Jared Young begins in 29th, and the green flag will see Robert Malikian starting 30th.
31st is going to be Mike Richter alongside Nicholas Hunter in the 32nd position. Trevor White's going to start behind him on row 17 next to Zachary Jouar. Then we have Barron Hilton and William Lee on row 18. Thomas Sink is our first driver not to set a time in 37th position alongside Jose Tellez. And then we have Adam J. Young and Mark Kalin in 40th position.
Trucks are now lining up out on the quad oval, waiting for that Mustang pace car to take off. I see Kalin, the only one who has not lined up, and he is in the session, so we should get all 40 trucks taking the green flag, hopefully. And he does come out, so there they go now starting on the pace lap. Saw and heard a lot of drivers after the Cup race on Sunday not looking forward to the Roval, so I have to wonder how many of these truck drivers thankful that they are driving the oval version here of Charlotte. Again, it's about 6:30 p.m. virtual standard time. Haven't seen much change in the weather. Just a few degrees cooler, about 91 degrees Fahrenheit now, as they roll onto the backstretch.
Yeah, Joe, I think more the chase drivers would be excited if the Roval wasn't part of the points championship run to the chase at the end of the season. But I do think that the fans appreciate kind of the wild card that it brings, and it's always fun to see NASCAR cars go around a road course.
I agree. And I know I'm partial. I like seeing stock cars take to road courses, so I enjoy getting to see them do the Roval. As we come now through 3 and 4, Dominic Begine in the number 66 will control the field as the Mustang pace car gets ready to peel into pit lane. What do we have in store for these 85 laps? There goes the pace car. Begine waiting a long time, holding them back. Green flag is now out. Accelerates away, not the greatest jumps for the 66, and William Hartman well on the outside in the 67. Looks for the shot on the high side as they start to build up speed. Down low, that is Rob Haynes, still side by side for second as the 67 starts to fall back. Most everybody staying double wide, a few getting single file, but otherwise a pretty calm start.
Definitely is a pretty calm start in the front, but Robert Malikian got hit by Nicholas Hunter as the field checked up in the back of the field. But up here for the lead, we have Dominic Begine leading with William Hartman trying to hold on to it. Whoa, we have a car high and the damage, it looks like. That's Jonathan Warren.
47 scraping the wall on the exit of 4. That starts to check up the field behind. Todd Smith running down low and drifting up a little bit, trying to stay out of him. That was, is that a car starting from pit lane? That was Mark Kalin. So he was the one that you mentioned having issues. That must have been serious then.
And Warren's starting to bottle up the field just a little bit behind him. The field kind of backing up to him. And so everyone behind him is just a little bit bottled up at this moment. They're all trying to duke it out for that position up there. Looks like they're duking it out for 7th and 8th and 9th.
Yeah, that's Daniel Knight on the high side in the 17. The 97 of Robert Besaw running low, but can't get the run off of turn 2. Just behind them, you also see that is the 61 of Nick Ketchum alongside Brennan Chatley. It is single file up at the front, but this is where you start to get some action between drivers.
This is the time to move. This is the time to make your passes, because this is when your tires are fresh. If you start getting later into these runs, especially with a tight setup, it's going to be trouble.
And speaking of which, we got a change for the lead. William Hartman did not wait long. He didn't manage to lead every lap in the last round, and he's not going to manage to do so, but he is making a move early. He's got the low side of the 66, and he is in front behind them as well in fourth and fifth. That's Zimke and Hawley trying to sort their positions out. Clearly, the 184 has made up a number of spots, having started ninth on the grid. Oh, we got a caution. Looks like Zachary Zwar involved in this. Number 18. Looks like this started with the 8 of Trevor White. White understeered on turn 4, and there you see just unfortunately swings right down in Zach's path.
Actually,
Watching from on board Zach now. Yeah, it looks like this did start earlier. Mike Richter a little bit slow on the low side for some reason. I think he got loose coming into 3.
yeah, that backed up a huge amount of the field.
So number 7 heading down low as well, and there's what caused the checkup, and eventually everybody behind had to try and get out of it. As we come back live now, your new order for the front is Hartman in the lead, Bajin second, Haynes runs third, Zemke is fourth, and I mentioned Bradley Hawley halfway up the top 10 in just a couple laps.
Yeah, Bradley Hawley's race pace is unlike anyone I've ever seen, but look at this. Everyone's going to come into the pits here, or at least most people. William Hartman leading them in.
Yeah, pretty much the entire field streams in. Look at that. I see John Ambrose taking a risk on those 5 laps under green. The double aught going to stay out.
You know, most races, I would say that this is a bad idea, but around here at Charlotte, I think this is brilliant. John Ambrose really was struggling for... his qualifying position was not great, so staying out along with those couple of other drivers, this is going to give him a great opportunity to gain some track position.
You saw the 64 of Todd Smith unfortunately misses pit stall slightly. That's going to hurt as everybody else comes around. And a few drivers taking 2 tires as I look at our timing and scoring. Zemke looks like he did. Bradley Hawley. And in fact, one driver seems to have missed their pit stall. I think Nick Ketchum unfortunately drove straight through.
So did Brett Adams as well.
Easy to do with that many drivers coming in. Shouldn't have... Did we have anybody actually a lap down? Should we have any wave bys on this one?
I think we did have one. I think it might have been... I'm not sure. I'm going to have to go back and look.
Yeah, well, as we're checking that. So we had John Ambrose stay out. We mentioned that. Mike Richter also stayed out. And Zachary Zwar elected not to come in and get the damage repaired. Those are our 3 drivers looking for track position. Nick Ketchum and Adams, who we said just went straight through the pit lane. Not sure that was intentional, but now they've got the track position as they are up at the front of the field. Zemke is really our first driver on a legit pit stop, but a 2-tire stop. He is in 5th place. That is the number 21 in the black, green, and white.
And it was Mark Kalin, the number 62, that got the lucky dog that time around. He was the one who came to the pits on the first lap.
So how are these drivers that are towards the back and a handle being up towards the front on slightly older tires? Will it make that much of a difference? The 42 backing into a stall. Not sure what's going on there. That is Adam Young.
And an interesting thing to talk about, Joe, is with the time limit that we have at 55 minutes, these drivers can really only afford 2 cautions, maybe 3. With the length of this track and how long it takes to do a lap under yellow, they're going to run out of time if they have too many cautions tonight.
We're going to have at least one more lap under caution. The lights are still on the pace car. Should be going out this time by. Let's see who some of our big movers are. except for, of course, the drivers that play a little bit of odd strategy. You can see, of course, Adams, Zwar, Richter, and Rose all gained a lot, but Nick Schmeg with his two-tire strategy helped him get up there. Of course, we have a few that have lost quite a bit. Smith, who I mentioned missed his pit stall, falling down 11 positions with that one error.
It looks like Austin Hunter also missed his pit stall, so he's fallen back. Danny Duchesne missed his pit stall. Robert Malikian missed his as well. So a lot of these drivers are really struggled to get into the pits and stop on their boxes.
Gotta practice everything out here. Those are crucial mistakes. Now double file. Lights are out on the pace car. It is going to be John Ambrose who leads the way. Let's see what kind of start he can get. This, of course, shuffles some of our faster drivers a little bit down the order. Former leader Hartman down in 7th on the restart. Bajin behind him. Bradley Hawley, our current champion, will restart in 11th on this. So back to exactly where he was just about on the very start of the race.
Zemke's going to line up. William Hartman's going to line up behind the two-tire taker of Zemke, so it'll be interesting to see how those two tires affect Zemke's pace as well.
Hopefully won't have to take avoiding action as we come out of turn 4. Mustang pace car down low and into the pit lane. John Ambrose waiting patiently. Now he gets on the loud throttle sooner than we saw with Bajin, and he gets a magnificent jump compared to what we saw before as well. Nick Ketchum, good off the line. He gets into 2nd. Oh, we got a big wreck in the back.
And this was due to someone trying to make it 3 wide before even the line happened, and we have quite a few people clambering into that wreck.
Looks like Zwar involved in that for the 2nd time. The 29 of Haynes. And they collected, that is Dominic Bajin, our pole sitter. Oh.
This is just, this is one of those moments where you understand why some leagues make it a rule to not go 3 wide before the line. This is why, because it seems to cause accidents like this, and Zachary Jouard just got kind of driven into there a little bit.
Yeah, it looked like Dominic had a good run and thought maybe he could sneak through. It almost went 4 wide, honestly, because Haynes also had a run, and it all just swung down in front of him. The car that hits Haynes after that, or excuse me, the truck, is Thomas Sink.
And then Robert Malikian also ran into that pile that was on the bottom lane as well.
Well, that was a pretty messy restart, all things considered. And I doubt we'll see many drivers come on in except for those in the back who either have damage or maybe think that they could go and get some fresh tires. We have no tire limit in this league, and they can come in anytime they want. Spate of cautions early for round 2. Very different compared to round 1, which only saw a total of 3 cautions. This does not bode well, especially after we are on such a good note on the opening round. So we'll come back with a quick rundown after we take a break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. Hopefully we'll get some green flag racing on our 2nd restart of the day here at Charlotte Motor Speedway for round 2 in the PRL Truck Series. Welcome back to Charlotte Motor Speedway, getting ready to retake another start. Ambrose, Ketchum, Richter, Zemke, and Hartman, your top 5 as the pace car peels in. Is Ambrose going to do the same thing? Is he going to change it up? He changes it up. He waits, and now he goes as the double lot leads the way once again, and Nick Ketchum into second. A little door banging behind for third. That is Zemke and Richter coming together. Looking a little bit cleaner, though, this time off the line, Adam.
Cleaner a little bit, but there's been a little bit of a backup. Brett Adams has fallen off the pace quite a bit, and that's backed up the rest of the field behind him. They're really bunched up back there for 5th down on through really the rest of the field.
Yeah, that involves Knight, Chatley, Schmeg, Holly, as well as Jalen Battle, who are all still side by side, Noah's Ark style, coming across the line. 2 by 2 by 2, and they still aren't able to sort it out. Finally, it looks like the 17 able to get ahead as Daniel Knight moves himself into 6th.
Good to see them sort themselves out. This is not easy to do, especially with the tight truck at Charlotte. But look at this, almost 3 wide down the backstretch. That, man, it's really tight racing there. Nick Schmeg on the bottom side there.
Now he drifts up high as Holly in the 184 trying to come through.
Nick Ketchum's in the wall from 2nd position. He hit the wall exiting 4, and that's given an opportunity to William Hartman. He's now had to back off just a little bit. He's now holding off Mike Richter and Adam Zemke.
That drops him to 11th position, where eventually it looks like the bleeding might stop. Smeg thinks better of a 3 wide situation, but unfortunately that also costs the green number 11 truck, as he has to get out of it. Battling up for 4th place as well, Mike Richter dealing with Daniel Knight to his inside, who's bottled up. That's Zemke there in the green and white number 21, not willing to relinquish that low line quite yet and keeping him behind.
Ambrose is off to quite a lead, half a second over Hartman, who has half a second over Zemke. But this battle for the 4th position continues to go on as Mike Richter and Daniel Knight still are side by side going into 3.
Richter going way up high, riding alongside the wall, and he brushes it on the exit. That interrupts his momentum. The 23 taking advantage, going low. Right underneath his spoiler is Bradley Holly, who has now managed to get to 6th.
Yeah, I think Mike Richter, he's just trapped up there on the high side now. He's got nowhere to go. He hasn't pitted yet, so he's on old tires, and it's starting to show. Everyone else on newer tires starting to go underneath. In fact, speaking of new tires, take a look at William Hartman and John Ambrose.
But in the lead, John Ambrose just got sent into the wall, and he is now tumbling on his lid. The double aught is going to have to take a tow, and this started with Hartman. We talked about those penalty points. I have a feeling that the 67 is going to get one for this one.
This is not what you want to see, especially when you are fighting for the lead in a championship. You do not want to send people around for the sake of winning a race. I don't think Hartman intended to. There's a little bit of net code here, but man, just look at this. John squeezes him a little bit, and then William just comes back at him and sends him into the wall, and he gets trapped in the wall and then collected by a couple of other drivers.
I tell you, John Ambrose has no luck whatsoever. He was collected in a wreck that wasn't his fault at Michigan as well. And now with that glitch, if it wasn't for that, I mean, it would have been a bad accident, but at least he could have maybe drove back to the pits. Hunt actually managing to go completely underneath John. Let's watch from her perspective. Everybody duck. Woo!
Ouch, man. You know, that's just... when you have no luck, it seems like it just happens all the time. But yeah, I think... yeah, well, this is actually a good time to explain the new caution rules that PRL has set up. Basically, what happens is if you, the stewards will give you a caution point against your license if you're found at fault for initiating a caution. And you get 1 point per caution, but the stewards have the right to issue larger points. If you get assessed 2 points within a 3-race period, you'll be ordered to start you'll get an EOL for the next race. But if you get 3 points within a 5-race period, you'll be suspended for 1 race. Now, William Hartman's not at risk of that, and he might not, depending on whether there was netcode involved here, he might not get a penalty point for this. But still, going on to the rest of the season with a point under your belt's not where you want to be right now.
Yeah, that'll hang around for a while. As you can see, they've now come in for a couple more stops. William Hartman will come back out in the lead. Daniel Knight followed him in second, and Zemke will restart in third. So we've had a bit of shuffling around because of all that. I don't think we had anybody else. It was just a single truck incident effectively in the end, was it not?
I think so. I need to go back and see whether or not anyone else hit John.
Attrition kind of rearing its ugly head. John has since decided to wheel it behind the wall and load it onto the trailer. He's left the server. I see that Colton Lane has done the same. Robert Malikian is gone. And then we've still got Thomas Sink taking repairs. Zwar has managed to get repairs and get back out, but his lap's down. Same thing with Rob Haynes. That's really bad news for Haynes if he was hoping to go for a championship run, because I'm not sure that he's really going to be able to get back on the lead lap, even with as many cautions as we're seeing.
Also, Colton Lane being a teammate of Bradley Hawley for that Whataback team, being out so early, that's really a bad sign for him and his team as well. Because if Hartman and his team can stay consistent and keep finishing these races, with Colton Lane wrecking out again, that's going to give him even more of a points lead.
Speaking of Bradley Hawley, driver that we expected to be up towards the front, especially the way that his pace has been on this restarts, he managed to get back up to 6. Somehow in the pit stops, or maybe he had to check up with the incident that happened ahead that brought out this caution, he's back down to 12th yet again. It's 2 steps forward, 3 steps backwards, it seems.
Joe, it appears to me that looking at his time on the pit lane, he either had to check up for something or he missed his box. He's 41 seconds while everyone else is around the 38-second range. So he lost 3 seconds on pit road, and that's why he's down in 12th.
Yeah, I think that seems like a fair assessment. Must have just slid on through or didn't pull in quite correctly. So come across the line one more time. And we're seeing a bit of double file as, I think we're coming back to green.
You know, I thought that the field was going to spread out more as we got in further into the green flag runs. And granted, we haven't had a super long one, but also there's just been a lot of, I don't know how else to put it, Joe, but a lot of mistakes going on in the front of the field that has allowed the rest of the pack to bunch up underneath. And so because we're not seeing, because of the way that the setup is and how tight it is, and the fact that people are washing up in the corners when they're trying to make passes, we're seeing a lot of close battles and a lot of big packs of trucks, and so that's making it very difficult for the drivers tonight.
Do you think this is maybe a false sense of security since it was surprisingly clean at Michigan? People are maybe get a little complacent here?
It's possible. It's also possible that people thought, oh, well, Michigan was clean, so I can race super hard and it'll still be clean tonight. But as we know, the faster you go, the harder it is to keep the truck straight when you make contact.
All right. How fast can the number 67 go? He's got a bit of an open goal with the driver that he finished behind last round. Bradley Hawley stuck back in the mid-pack. This could be a chance to gain a lot of points on him, especially if we get another run from Hawley like we did last season. Pace car is in, 67 is off, and we go racing once again here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Daniel Knight in that second place has a clear bit of track below, but he doesn't take it as the 21 of Zemke could maybe stick his nose in. Oh, and he almost does. The 17 ducks back up high at the last second.
It's a pretty clean restart from everybody. Bradley Hawley up to 10th position there just on that restart. But we have a big line of trucks down on the bottom lane there going into 3. They're all lined up trying to go fast through there, but it looks like it's not going to work for everybody. Brett Adams stuck there on the bottom side trying to make it work. It's not going to work for him.
Richter almost drifted high yet again as well. That nearly cost the 3 wide. Hawley was in there. And Frank Peacock, who has to back out of it. But Hawley makes use of his low side momentum to be able to get side by side as they come off of 2. Just up ahead, we're watching the 3 and the 28 of Battle trying to sort out 5th place.
Well, he's doing a really good job, but he's got to be careful. He's getting really close to that right rear bumper, as we're seeing riding on board with Frank Peacock. But look at this. He gets underneath Brendan Chatley. He's going to be able to make this pass, I think. But these drivers have to be really careful. Getting on that left rear quarter panel could send another driver around, and if you do that close enough, you're going to get collected too.
We've already seen that once with John Ambrose getting touched on the left rear and finding himself in the wall, quite literally. Still 2x2, trying to sort out that 5th position. Jalen Battle now up the high side. Instead, it's Brad Adams to the low side. And we got a 3-wide once again, nearly going through the AstroTurf. The 184 of Bradley Hawley manages to save it. How long is he going to try and stick this one out? Oh, and more net code, unfortunately causing a bit of a wreck. Other drivers getting collected. Adams in there. Schmeg looks like he got a little bit of contact. I think the 22. That's Jared Young down in the grass and smoking.
And I'm pretty sure Bradley Hawley will not get assessed with any sort of caution points for this one. That was huge net code. But he was definitely deciding it was time to go, and he just got in there, and I guess iRacing just decided that he'd moved up about half a lane. As we can see here as we're watching on board. Watch the 23 and the 184. They don't really come anywhere near each other, but the 23, massive contact, and that sends him up into the wall, and he gets collected.
Yeah, that's Brett Adams and the 23 with the initial contact. Chatley got tipped. He hit the wall. Poor Mike Richter was just in the worst possible spot and absolutely T-bones the 23. We're watching from the Texans' view.
Yeah, nowhere he could go.
There we finish the replay and come back live now. I believe our leader's getting ready to come into the pits. They're going to be led by Hartman with Danny Knight just behind. Anybody going to try and come back around?
I think this is a good opportunity to gain some track position if you're in the back of the field. You didn't go that many laps, and now is your time to gain some track position. With the amount of cautions we've been having, we are absolutely 100%. Pretty much, I strongly believe we're going to be doing a timed race tonight, because with the amount of cautions we're having, it's just going to breed more cautions, Joe, and especially with people taking risks on tire strategy in the front, we're going to see more of this accordion effect happening.
Ooh. Zemke with a 2-tire call. That puts him in front of Hartman, who comes out behind him. A number of other drivers at the back agree with you on your strategy there. Paul Williams, LaBaff, Telez, Hunt, and Young did not come into the pits.
It's good to see Rachel Hunt back up front. Her starting position and where she's had to be battling tonight, not very indicative of her normal pace, but Rachel Hunt in that 16 truck now, she's going to be in P4 in line right now, so I think that's going to be a little bit more comfortable for her. We've seen her do good things in other series, so it'll be interesting to see how she takes this restart.
Yeah, the 16 is going to have pretty good track position now, starting on the 2nd row. I'd like to see what she can do with that now that she'll be out of the thick of it. Certainly has avoided some danger so far. So we have, I'm seeing about half an hour left to go, I believe.
Close to that, yeah. We're about 27 minutes in, and interestingly enough, Rachel Hunt, even with her good starting position, is going to have new tires right behind her. Adam Zemke is our first car on new tires, and he'll be starting in the 5th position.
Once again, thank you for joining us for the Race for the Roberts 205K. This is, of course, for a charitable cause to help the Roberts family. If you have some time and a little bit of change to spare, make sure and scroll down to the description below this video, and you'll see a link where you can go and donate to help that family out after the horrible accident that they have endured. We've got Williams taking the restart up in that number 7 at the front, but we still have another lap before we get the lights out on the pace car. This has been a very, very jumbled field due to the variety and strategy, and also the numerous problems that everybody has been experiencing a couple of them now up at the front on that one restart we saw with Zwar and a few others. And then, of course, it was up at the front for John Ambrose. It was towards the front that we saw the incident with Holly as well. Typically, I expect this stuff to happen in the midfield, Adam.
Well, the midfield's actually been managing to keep it pretty clean tonight. It's those front runners who are all deciding that they want to be at the front right now, and they're forcing the issue, making things 3 wide, and it's causing accidents, and it's collecting those in the back. So it's very interesting to see the dynamic that's going on. The folks in the midfield are content running side by side and being right next to each other, whereas the people in the front, they're trying to get to the lead. It looks like everyone's trying to get to the lead as quickly as possible. So as they line up 2 by 2, we'll see whether that pattern repeats itself again.
I was going to say, I think the problem is only going to be exacerbated with every caution that we get, because that's less time to get to the front. And so that could up the aggression. Let's see what they do on this restart as they now come 2 wide just behind the pace car. The lights go off. Got a number of cars multiple laps down because of the numerous incidents. Adams, Richter, Young, Zwar, Lane, Haynes. Of course, the DNFs in there as well. Ambrose, Malikian, and Sink, who've now settled into the back on our timing and scoring. The sun continues to set now as we hit 7 p.m. virtual standard time. Obviously won't get too far down, as we'll only go till roughly 7:30. Coming off of the 4th corner onto the quad oval. The Mustang pace car going to release Paul Williams. This is the first time we've seen him lead the field to green. The 7 gets a decent jump, and in fact, he is going to tow along the 24 of Josue Tellez. He gets ahead of John LeBaff, who falls down to 3rd. Adam Zemke, who's been up to the front for much of this race, falls down to the low line. Then you got a side-by-side battle between Hunt and William Hartman. The number 67 getting a good run down the backstretch.
Yeah, William Hartman got a really good run on that restart on the outside, but it is the outside. It's not the preferred line, but Rachel Hunt doesn't have the tires for it. Even after just a couple laps, she's losing pace. So William Hartman zipping right by her and now challenging Adam Zemke for that 4th position.
Top drivers, once again, we're seeing get a little bit settled out, but just behind them, a lot of side-by-side action. Zemke the next for Hartman, who continues to make that high line work surprisingly well. He's going to head into 3, try to stick it in deep. Finds a little momentum at first. And now, look at this. John LeBaff just ahead of the 21 as well. Could he bottle him in? That works beautifully for Hartman.
Hartman's carrying really good momentum around that high side, but that'll only last for a couple laps, so he's going to duck down to the inside, using that traction to give himself a better line off the corner, and now he's got a slingshot going forward. But look at that on the inside underneath, right behind him. That's Bradley Hawley, now challenging Rachel Hunt, and now he's going to go for Adam Zemke as Rachel gets stuck up on the high side. Hartman held up, though.
It's been all of 2 or 3 laps since the restart, and from 12th up to 6th. Bradley Hawley is really in a hurry. You can see the 67 also in a hurry as he now takes 2nd place, already away from Josue. Looks like he might even be challenged by LeBaff, who goes down low but can't get the run off the turn.
Coming all the way up to 2nd, Bradley Hawley in 6th right now, bottled up behind LeBaff and Zemke. And he's trying to figure out his way through, but these 2 guys are duking it out, and they're not giving him any room. He's going to have to do something desperate, or he's just going to have to wait it out. But we know what his MO is tonight. He's not going to wait it out right now. Gets a little bit of contact right there to John LeBaff.
LeBaff certainly made it really close, but William Hartman wasting no time. He is behind Paul Williams. How long is he going to wait for a pass? Last time he stuck his nose under and accidentally spun a car with a little net code. This time he stays behind. Paul Williams may have been able to take the restart. He may have gotten track position, but he just might lose some here, especially with the pace that we're seeing from William Hartman.
And we saw on screen Bradley Holly making a 3-wide move underneath LaBeouf and allowing Zemke to get away, but William Hartman underneath Paul Williams. Now this looks like a carbon copy of what we saw with Ambrose. Let's see what Williams does. Williams moving to the high side, staying up there, not pressuring Hartman, and he lets it by. He's just going to slot in behind.
Hartman leads another lap here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. He returns to the front. The battle now becomes for third place. Tellez to the inside of Zemke, and Zemke is looking incredibly strong. Look at that off of turn 2, and he is miles away now.
You can save some of those tires. That outside line can really work for you, but it's a really risky move, especially with the tight setup that we have right now. But look at this. Tellez just falling back just a little bit on those tires, and so Bradley Holly moving forward. Tellez, even though he pitted as well, he's still really starting to struggle right now.
The fact that he's still within the top 5 says quite a bit about his ability, though. He's been having to hold a number of drivers off. I don't think he's going to be able to do so for the 17. That is Danny Knight, who's got a nose in. As they come down to 3, indeed, the 24 is not going to try and hold him up. The driver he does hold up is LaBeouf, who once again finds himself stuck.
Joe, we're reaching the point where we're close to the longest run we've had on tires tonight, so it'll be interesting to see how these drivers adapt to both the changing track conditions but also the changing tire conditions, something they haven't faced tonight yet.
Absolutely. Rachel Hunt, unfortunately, also falling back. She's down to 10th. An update on Holly. He's now in 4th and has been spying 3rd on Zemke as we ride on board with Warren. Looking ahead, you can see him far up there. Holly was the main rival for Hartman last round, but now he has been severely disadvantaged. He is already 1.5 seconds back from our overall leader.
Well, he's doing a good job, though, cutting through the field. But that being said, is it fast enough? Hartman's already up over a second lead, and he's really starting to stretch that away, whereas Holly has to fall in line behind these guys. And right now, the aerodynamics of these trucks are starting to come into play as the tires start to give way a little bit, and so Holly's struggling to make these passes.
Certainly has hit a roadblock. Zemke looking to try and get away as he closes up on Paul Williams. He's going to go around the high side. The 7 looking like he's struggling with those old tires. He's got a number of laps over those to the upper side of him, coming around 3 and 4. Bradley Holly continues to follow Adam Zemke by. That promotes him into 3rd spot as Zemke now takes 2nd.
I'm pretty sure Zemke will be easy pickings for Bradley Holly. There we go. He's going to go to the low side. He's going to pack it a little bit, try and take that middle lane. But Zemke carries a lot of speed off the corner, even with the tires starting to go away a little bit. And it's a dead heat down the backstretch with Zemke. A little bit of momentum there for him.
Oh, but look at the shot into the corner. Those fresher tires they're on the same length old tires, and it over under almost gets into the 184. Zemke, as the number 17 now joins the fray. When did Daniel Knight have this sort of speed?
Daniel Knight's pace is something amazing. I saw him cutting through the midfield, and I didn't think he'd get up here that fast, but look at this. Rachel Hunt's around.
Oh, Rachel Hunt's good run comes to an end, and it was Begine to the low side. Hunt gets another thwack from Mitchell Clark. Begine also with a little bit of extra contact. I believe that was Mark Kalin.
Yeah, I think that was just the factor of the quad oval that we get here at Charlotte. It's a very fascinating thing to try and race. You really do get shoved up towards that high side when you come through this trial here at the front. As you can see, as they coming through, it's just slide up top, and Rachel comes down a little bit to try and angle off the corner and enter it, and they come together.
Had to think that it couldn't last forever, and especially the more she fell down through the field, the more those tires aged, the more difficult it was going to be to stay out of trouble. But this brings Holly, who did manage to get by Zemke in time, up to second, directly behind Hartman as they come onto pit lane. There's going to be a battle of the pit crews, but Hartman will be closer to the pit exit line, so he has a straighter shot.
Be interesting to see whether anyone tries 2 tires. The 2-tire runners have not been struggling that much tonight, but this is the longest tire run they've had, so I'd expect everyone to take 4 right now.
I think so too. They'll try to come in and not miss their pit stalls, which has really been a pretty common mistake for a lot of drivers. Down to less than 20 minutes left to go. Hartman manages to get out first. Hawley second. Zemke into third. Very close between the 17 of Knight and Williams, as they were nearly 3 wide with Zemke.
And Joe, I can confirm that this will be a timed race based upon the amount of laps we've done and the amount of time that's remaining. So these guys are racing to the clock now, which will make things very interesting to see whether or not how many laps they can get in.
So if drivers have a crew chief, if there's someone on the box, then they need to really be watching that clock. If not, well, you got to go from that F3 box to that F1 box. Try and keep half an eye on that. Should get another couple laps around for the lapped cars to be waved by. And who do we have coming in here? That is Rob Haynes, who is laps down. He now comes in for his stop. Curious who has our fastest lap of the race so far. Again, that is a bonus point in this series. Of course, leading the lap also a bonus point. The most laps led a bonus point, and the pole, as well as a clean race, which is less than 3 incidents. But if you have 1 car contact, that sort of ruins that.
Yeah, looking through the field, I believe it's Williams fastest laps with the fastest lap, so it's going to give him a nice boost to his points championship, especially considering that they came into this tied. So Hartman doing what he needs to do right now, but he's got a little bit of left rear damage, and Bradley Hawley he's going to be to his outside. So this race definitely isn't over, folks. This is going to get really interesting right now.
Coming down the back stretch, your leader currently is William Hartman with Bradley Hawley behind, Zemke third, Daniel Knight fourth, and Paul Williams. This didn't work out too bad for him. He's managed to return in fifth with these pit stops. If anything, I'd say he's the one that this alternate strategy has worked out the best for.
Him and Josue Tellez, who's in 8th place, he's up 30 positions from his starting position. So Josue doing a really good job tonight in being able to maintain his track position even with weird strategy.
Let's not discount Charles Sumner in the 98. He qualified 14th. He's up to 6th. And from what we've seen, anything can happen tonight before all is said and done. So they now go double file. See the clock ticking down there with 18 minutes left to go for our drivers. And we have no green-white checkers in the trucks. We saw that effect last race. Michigan looked like it was going to be quite a fight to the end. And then suddenly we got a caution with about 3 laps to go. Handed the win to Bradley Hawley. Could it bite him back? Could William Hartman potentially take the win due to a caution at the end of the race? Does Hawley have the pace? We haven't seen Bradley and William really racing side by side, I don't think at all yet this race. So this will be a fascinating development to see how they are head to head as they come out of the fourth corner. And the Mustang pace car gets ready to peel into pit lane once more. It has been a bit of a caution fest today, but we've gotten some good racing along the way. quick jump for our leader. The 67 up and ahead very quickly. Zemke with a little bit of a nose inside of Bradley Hawley. Can he maybe make that into a second place? That's exactly what the 184 does not want right now, and it's already hurting his pace trying to catch up to the 67. Finally, it looks like he's managed to shut him down. Oh, and a caution early. See if I can find it. I'm not seeing anybody spun right now. Someone must have had an odd incident. Oh, it was Zwar along with Mike Richter. Both drivers have been involved in stuff already.
So these are two lapped cars with significant damage. And going through turn one.
I think Richter kind of steered down into Zwar, and
it was because the 29 of Rob Haynes slowed up entering turn one, and that really caught Richter just by surprise.
And well, unfortunate for Richter, we mentioned the incident limit. Well, he's found his way over 13 because he disappeared, and he is now out of this race.
I think that's the first time we've seen that happen in quite a few races here in the PRL Truck Series. So Charlotte proving to be a really formidable opponent to these guys tonight.
Absolutely is. Kind of surprises me. Would have thought that Michigan would be the more difficult one of the two and cause a lot of chaos with how fast that track is and how easily they can run three wide. But it sure seems like the good old quad oval has been testing many a driver's skill here today.
Yeah, and Joe, this track may be 3 lanes wide, but the difference between the banking and the corners from 24 degrees to 8 degrees makes it very difficult for these drivers to transition in and out of the turns. You kind of go over this hump and it really launches your truck. You actually lose a good half lane when you try and get your way up. So it's very fascinating whenever you try and exit the corner, because it could be a real challenge to try and hang on to the truck depending on your attitude when you start exiting the corner.
And we talked about it earlier, the cautions breeding cautions as it gets now less than 15 minutes to go. We've seen some drivers really try to make some interesting moves. What fascinated me was that Hawley didn't get a good jump at all, and then because it seemed like he was held a little bit on the outside, he lost touch with Hartman very quickly.
Yeah, Hawley spun his tires just a little bit on the restart, and that put Adam Zemke kept Adam Zemke below him. But we've seen that Zemke's strength is on the high side on the exit of 1 and 2. So Bradley Hawley just hanging out there on the high side instead of diving in front of Zemke and trying to make that work through turn 1. He just stayed high because he knew that Zemke's strength is on that high side. So he took away Zemke's preferred line and was able to maintain the position.
Still got to wait for another lap around behind the pace car. The lights are still on. So as the drivers work their way around, this has really been a stark contrast to what we saw at Michigan. And they'll have to go back and rethink things a little bit when they pause between this week and next round.
We're going to see a lot of drivers with 1 caution point on their license. That'll be very interesting to see how that plays out going forward into the season. It's not something we've seen with this series before, so it'll be very interesting to see how that affects the season and especially the points.
I think we should get the lights off this time by. Talked about drivers possibly being happy that it wasn't the Roval that they raced on. Well, it's certainly looking a little bit like it's as hard as that one for these drivers. And lights are still not off on the pace car. Oh, there we go. Hadn't quite crossed the line. Only 29 drivers are still on the lead lap from our 40 starters. And are we getting a premature final lap there on our timing is going? I think we may. So apologies for that. It is not the end of the race that we're seeing. We will get a restart, and we will have roughly 12 minutes left to go. Hartman got the jump last time. Holly really needs to watch closely to that car ahead. Could Zemke spoil the party? Maybe he could find himself a second place in all this. Also, don't forget the pace that we saw towards the end for the number 17 of Daniel Knight. Suddenly and very quickly became a part of the battle for second that we saw between Holly and Zemke. Hopefully we get a nice little run to the end under green as the Mustang pace car now peels in. Very quick start this time for William Hartman, and a much better start for Bradley Holly. Look at that. The response right on point for the number 184. They managed to skitter away as Knight and Zemke squabble over third.
If Knight can clear Zemke, then he's got a good chance to catch up to Bradley Holly, but they got to do it now because that draft is going to disappear for them. So Zemke holding strong on the bottom. Knight's just got to throw it into 3 and 4 if he wants to have an opportunity to catch up to these front two.
It's not quite enough. They're going to stay side by side through 3 and 4 as behind them that's Sumner giving watch. Sumner up to P5 now from his 14th position on the grid. 17 finding some momentum through the quad oval. Does he shut the door? He can't quite. Zemke still down low at his quarter panel.
This is the last thing either of them need, but Daniel Knight finally clears him, and he can go ahead and try and catch up to Bradley Holly and William Hartman. Holly not catching Hartman as fast as I thought he would. And we've got Nick Ketchum. Looks like he's hit the wall.
Slow on the backstretch. He had some help, actually. The 82 of Mike Franklin tipped him, but no caution. They managed to keep it pointed forward. Ooh, and the fastest lap of the race has been taken away. Bradley Holly using the cooling temperatures, which is now down to 87 degrees Fahrenheit, to try and sneak a bonus point away from his rival.
He's doing a really good job of trying to close that gap, but I also saw him go a little bit tight through the corner, watching the 7 and the 59 duke it out. Those two guys are for 6th and 7th on the field as we see these guys start to run away with the lead.
Oh, William on the low line. Chatley up high. They take it through 1 and 2 and onto the back stretch. No such dramas for them, getting into one another, giving a respectful amount of space. As you see just behind them, the 97, the 47 thinking about going too wide. Still off the corner. Nobody able to find any sort of advantage. Chatley not yet ready to give up, but he starts to lose touch. The 7 finding some speed on the front stretch. Still not totally clear.
While these guys are duking it out, Bradley Holly slowly catching William Hartman. William Hartman's starting to put in some quick laps too, but he's slower through the center of the corners. So Bradley Holly has some really good pace right now. He's got his entry, mids, and exits faster than William Hartman by probably about 500ths per lap. So it's not a lot, but it's enough. And if Holly can get close enough to really get in that draft of Hartman, Hartman's going to have something to worry about.
They have absolutely dropped those behind. It's about a second back to Daniel Knight now. So it has become a 2-horse race, and it's the same as last week. And we've got problems for Chatley.
Still green right now. Still green as Brendan Chatley's able to keep it together, but he's significantly damaged right now. He got into it a little bit door to door with the car beneath him.
About 8 minutes left to go. Back up to the lead. Still about 0.4 of a second, just shy of 0.4 of a second between Holly and Hartman.
Hartman's starting to stretch it a little bit, Joe. He's starting to pull away. He's pulling just a couple hundredths every turn now, so it looks like Bradley Holly might have used up too much of his stuff on that restart.
Yeah, I think William is starting to respond. He saw the gap closing and decided now's the time to go. There's very little time left on the clock. He doesn't need to save it, and we got a caution again. Believe that is Franklin.
Franklin and Schuhen, I believe.
The Brian shotgun driver was coming low into turn 1 and started to drift up. And indeed, Adam in the 83 was there when he didn't expect it. Both of them smacking the outside.
That's going to make it very tight here. It's going to be a very short amount of time for this restart. I think they're going to restart with 3 minutes to go. Maybe it's going to be very short restart for them.
Yeah, I'm seeing 6 minutes left on the clock just now. So Holly going down low on the apron. Usually that's a sign of saving fuel. I would not think that fuel saving is any sort of concern though today.
No, I think they're just catching up to the back of the pace car, and Holly just trying to avoid hitting Hartman. It's surprisingly easy to do for all the drivers who've driven ovals around iRacing know. But it looks like Hartman's going to stay out here. So is Holly. It's going to be interesting to see who comes in right now.
Yeah, not going to get back to racing this time quite yet. But I agree. I think we're going to be awful tight. Unfortunately, those drivers that were involved in that incident have had to come in to get some repairs. So without much racing left to go, they are going to have a horrible result today. Paul Williams still up in 6th place after 24th position on the grid. That one single call late in the race during the caution allowed him to jump up to the front. And even though it seemed like he didn't have pace, it has paid huge dividends.
So this will be their final attempt to make green flag laps. They're going to be restarting with close to around maybe 2 minutes to go. It's going to be really, really difficult for them to... I mean, Bradley Holly's going to have to be on it. He's going to have to not let Hartman get away like he did these last 2 times. If Holly can get a good jump, then Hartman's going to have some serious work out of him.
Yeah, at that point, it's either going to be a 4 or 5 lap shootout, or we're going to get one more caution, and that will end the race. I said at the start that it was Hartman that looked like he had the measure of Holly, even though he got dropped once or twice during the race at Michigan, and Bradley Holly looked to be very strong on long run pace. William Hartman has been practically in command for much of this one. Got light still on this time by, so we got at least 2 more laps to go. We've got a little bit before we come back to green, and since this will for sure be our last one to the checkered flag, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the run to the finale. Don't go away for round 2 in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. Welcome back to Charlotte Motor Speedway. We were wrong in our estimation. It is looking like a 1 or 2 lap shootout here to the end, as we have less than 1:30 to go, and they are now double file. William Hartman will lead the restart, and he's going to have to hold off a charging Bradley Hawley, the current champion. Behind them, very hungry drivers looking for wins. Daniel Knight and Adam Zimke in 3rd and 4th, respectively. Could they maybe sneak a win if the top 2 tangle on the final lap? We'll find out pretty soon, because as we come out of NASCAR 4, the pace car now ducks into pit lane. Green flag is out as the 67 now accelerates away. He gets a good jump over Bradley Hawley, still battling between the 17 and the 12. Don't believe we got the white flag that time by. We'll find out soon enough. They come down the back stretch. A good gap from the leader to 2nd place. Even if we get the white flag this time by, it's going to take something phenomenal from the 184 to try and take it to the 67. He is already 2/10 ahead. They come across the line with about 6 seconds left to go on the clock. White flag should be coming out.
Still didn't see it, but William Hartman doing a good job. He's actually starting to pull away a little bit, and that's good news. It looks like Doyle Lawrence has had a problem in the number 9 truck in the back. We'll take a look at that later.
And since we're not getting any caution, I'm assuming that we are indeed on the white flag as they come around. We'll get confirmation soon. And indeed, this is it. The win for round 2 goes to William Hartman, just about 3/10 ahead of Bradley Hawley. Daniel Knight going to manage to finish out the podium ahead of Zimke in 4th.
And there was a huge wreck in going into turn 1 at the end of that race. A huge wreck across the line. Nicholas Schmeg was in it as well.
Let's see if we can pull up the replay for that. So we try and pull this one up. There's
Schmeg. The
Schmeg.
312
after
truck
the
coming
line.
down. Yeah, just a little bit, it looked like.
You said that was it Lawrence that
It
had
was
an
the
issue?
312 of Austin Hunter, actually.
Hunter, okay. Let's see if we can pull this one up. Down into 1, just behind the 97. It's the 64 of Smith behind him. So far, so good down the backstretch.
It was the 64 that actually came underneath him. I think Austin Hunter was trying to cover him off going across the line here.
Oh, spun down to the inside and then came right back into the racing line. A lot of drivers involved in that, with the white flag again coming out. They cannot throw the caution by that point. And so that's why you see a lot of drivers, unfortunately, piling in there. The race over, the results are set. That could yet change with some penalties, but here's the unofficial ones, with William Hartman taking the victory. Bradley Hawley, a reverse of last round, finishing 2nd behind of Daniel Knight with a well-earned 3rd. Adam Zimke takes P4, and Paul Williams climbing all the way from 24th to a top 5. Charles Sumner as well, 14th to 6th for him. Jonathan Warren finishes in 7th. Josue Tellez did not get a qualifying time in, so he gridded up from 38th. He winds up in 8th position when all is said and done. Robert Besaw Jr. was 9th. Top 10 is rounded out by Austin Hunter.
Todd Smith is going to come home in 11th. Right behind him is John LaBaff in 12th. Adam J. Young coming home in 13th position. A really good move from him. 26 positions up from the 39th starting position. Then we have Nicholas Schmeg, 14th, even after getting involved in that wreck at the end of the race. Jalen Battle, 15th. Danny Duchesne, 16th. Frank Peachock in 17th. And Brendan Chatley, 18th. Then we have Dominic Magine, 19th. And Baron Hilton, 20th.
In 21st, it was Nick Ketchum with Nick Hunter behind him in 22nd, Brandon Walter in 23rd. Then you've got Doyle Lawrence in P24. Trevor White just behind him in 25th. Another driver that started well back in 33rd. William Lee winds up 26th, and Mike Franklin in 27th. Zach Swire, the first driver, two laps down, but still comes home 28th. Mark Kalin, 29th, and Mitchell Clark rounds out your top 30.
We have Adam Shane in the 31st position, 7 laps down. Rob Haynes, 9 laps down. Colton Lane, 13 laps down. Mike Richter, 20 laps down. Rachel Hunt, 24 laps down. And these are the first of our DNFs. And we have Brett Adams, 36 laps down. Jared Young, John Ambrose, Thomas Sink, and Robert Malicki, and round out your field.
We've got our winner ready to talk to us, William Hartman, waiting in the wings. And William, it looked like it was a little bit of a different race today out there, to say the least, but you qualified well while Bradley didn't. Do you think that made a lot of the difference, that he struggled to find his way forward to catch you?
Yeah, I definitely think it was a contributing factor. It was pretty tough to make a pass. There was a lot of mixed up tire strategy as well that made it kind of hard to make your way back up to the field. And, you know, Brad's a really, really fast racer. So anytime you can get that kind of head start at the beginning, it's really good to take advantage of. So luckily we were able to keep ourselves up front and didn't have to deal with too much of the traffic.
Only 3 cautions in the first round, but plenty more in this round. What do you attribute the yellow fest that we saw? Do you think drivers just got complacent out there today?
Yeah, I think that was part of it. There was a little bit of frustration going around as well, which frustration kind of leads to some cautions propping up. But I'm sure we can work together, get it cleaned up, and try and get everything cleaned up going into the next race.
Well, congratulations on victory. That's 2 podiums in the first 2 rounds. Hopefully, we'll see you next week, sir.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Up next, we have Bradley Hawley ready to talk to Adam Lindgren about his second place finish.
Yeah, Bradley Hawley, not the finish that you were looking for, but a good battle throughout, even after a couple of tough pit stops. How'd you cut your way through the field?
I mean, I'm honestly happy with second place today. Like you said, with the pit stops and everybody taking 2 tires and then me making a mistake. But I felt like if I could just hug the line as violent as I could, I guess the best way to put it is I was going to be able to get runs off the corner and get underneath people.
Yeah, at the beginning of runs, you seem to have the measure of the field, especially on that bottom side. Was there any technique to getting it down there and being able to manage to have the truck hug that white line, or did you just trust it and go?
Honestly, it was just patience, because with the way this setup is if you overdrove it by 10 feet, it just seemed like it just went straight. So just, I would wait till I felt like it was hooked up, and that's when I would get back in the gas.
Awesome. Well, a good finish from you tonight. Second place, good points for you as well. So we'll hope to see you next week.
Yes, sir. You will.
Awesome. That was Bradley Hawley, our second place finisher. And we also have Daniel Knight finishing third place.
Yes, and he seemed to have a very good run late in the race coming forward. Daniel, we were watching the battle for third, and suddenly at one point you came up like a shot. What happened there that you suddenly found the truck hooked up at the end?
Well, I felt we were really good on a long run, which, we're all running fixed setup, so I guess everybody else was just as good, but I felt like I was taking care of tires more, but if we kept going green, I felt like I had something really good to actually catch up to these guys, and I don't know, it just started clicking there later in the race with kind of getting a good run off the exit of the corner, and I think a big thing was just being able to pick my line and not have anybody around me and take the air off the nose of the guys behind me and kind of strategize that way.
Before the season, we had a chance to talk to your teammate Adam Young about the influx of ride and shotgun drivers. How would you assess the team so far in these first 2 rounds? Are you pretty happy with the results you're getting?
Oh, very. It's kind of nice. We got a good mix of old guys, and I've only been with the team since the beginning of the year. So we've got myself and then a couple new guys with John Ambrose and Adam Schoen. So it's good to have a bunch of new guys come in and kind of come out there in force and see what we can do.
Well, you certainly came out in force. There's a lot of you out there. Sorry to cut things a little bit short, but we've got to get ready for an upcoming broadcast. Again, congratulations on a podium, and hopefully we'll see you next week at Iowa.
All right, man. Thank you.
That was Daniel Knight. Again, apologies for being a little bit rushed here in the post race, but thank you for watching us, and a big thank you to all of those who helped organize the charity that this was for. Again, this was the Race for the Roberts 205K. Please, when you have time, go down and check the link in the description and donate if you have a little bit of change to spare. Also, thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. You can see them listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Amjad, Adam, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Head on over to our YouTube page, and if you see a red button that says subscribe, that means you aren't subscribed. Hit that, and you won't miss a moment here on the GSRC. Next race, we're heading out to the middle of the country. That'll be Iowa, Wednesday, October 2nd at 8:50 p.m. Eastern. But we also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen. So check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.